He checks his phone one last time before sleep, and there it is. A comment, a criticism, a few words on a glass screen written by a stranger in a moment of petty spite. And yet, his heart hammers against his ribs, his jaw clenches, the darkness of his room vanishes, replaced by the glaring courtroom of his own mind, where he prosecutes himself, defends himself, and passes judgment on himself, all over a phantom's whisper. This is the modern battlefield, not of flesh and blood, but of perception and nerve. And he is losing. He is a king, besieged in his own skull. Now, journey back 2,000 years, to the muddy banks of the Danube River. The air is not filled with digital ghosts, but with the very real stench of death. Plague ravages the camp. The greatest general under the emperor has just betrayed him, declaring himself the new master of Rome. Barbarian tribes mass in the forests, howling for blood. The very empire is cracking under its own weight. This is not a bad day at the office. This is the end of a world. And in a lamplit tent, surrounded by the groans of dying men and the weight of absolute power, a man picks up a pen. He does not rage, he does not weep, he writes. He writes what may be the most powerful psychological operating system ever devised by a human mind, not for publication, not for glory, but as a whetstone to sharpen his own soul, a drill manual for the spirit. This is how to think like a Roman emperor. To understand the power of this system, you must first understand the paradox of the man. His name was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world. He could have anything he desired, anything, yet he desired nothing but virtue. He was a philosopher-king who hated war, yet spent most of his reign on campaign, mired in the brutality he loathed. He was a Stoic who preached the acceptance of death, while watching a plague he called the Antonine pestilence kill millions, including his own children. He held absolute power, yet his deepest writings on the absolute necessity of self-control. He did not write from a place of theory, he wrote from the front lines of human suffering. His throne was a saddle, his palace was a war tent, his crown was a helmet. And his greatest work was never meant for you to read. He called them ta eis ehukon, to himself. We call it meditations. The title is wrong. This is no serene collection of thoughts. It is the frantic, repetitive, and brutally honest journal of a man desperately trying to remember his own training in the heat of battle. It is not a book to be read. It is a tool to be used, a mirror to be held up to your own soul. And in its pages, we find not complex theories, but 3 immutable laws, 3 pillars for building an unbreakable mind. The 3 laws. The first law, the law of the inner fortress. The emperor writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The world will attack. It is the world's nature. Its weapons are not just spears and swords. For you, they are a critical email, a traffic jam, a word of rejection, a market crash." The common man sees the attack and believes he must control it. He must answer the email with equal fury, rage against the traffic, crumple under the rejection. He exhausts himself trying to command the storm. The emperor's genius was in his architecture. He built his fortress not of stone, but of perception. This shield is not for blocking the blow. It is a symbol, a reminder of what lies behind it. Your mind, your judgment, your character, your action. This is your inner keep. This is the sacred ground you are sworn to protect. All else is outside the walls. Let it rage. It cannot touch you unless you grant it entry. Imagine him, stuck in traffic, an hour late. The meeting was crucial. The phone buzzes with angry messages. The external world, the unmoving cars, the angry boss, is a battering ram against his gate. The old king would rage. He would pound the steering wheel, his blood pressure soaring, his day ruined, his peace sacrificed to the god of hurry. The new emperor applies the law. He asks the triage question, what is within my power? He cannot move the traffic, it is outside the wall. He cannot control his boss's anger, it is outside the wall. What is inside his wall? His breath, his choice, his action. He can choose to use this seized hour. He puts on an audiobook, he listens to music he loves, he practices patience, he mans the ramparts of his own reason. The siege fails, the fortress holds. He arrives late, but he arrives calm, unbroken, the master of his inner domain. This is the deeper reflection. If you truly, deeply believed that your worth was not determined by your productivity, your punctuality, or anyone's approval of you, what would you stop fearing? What would you dare to begin? The fortress of your mind is the only thing you will ever truly own. Will you defend it? The second law, the law of the hammer. The emperor writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The common man sees the hammer and sees only a weapon. He sees the blow coming and he cries, "Why me?" He is the brittle iron, shattered by the force he curses. The emperor sees the same hammer, he feels the same heat. But his question is different. He does not ask, why? He asks, what for? He sees the one tool that can forge him. He does not merely accept the blows of fate, he loves them, amor fati. He needs their force to discover the strength hidden in his own metal. This difficulty, it is the specific drill for my resilience. This failure, it is the perfect teacher for my wisdom. The hammer is not your enemy. It is your most loyal blacksmith. Imagine him, called into the office. The words, "We're letting you go," hang in the air. The blow falls. The old king would collapse, identity shattered, future gone, panic sets in. The new emperor feels the blow. The fear is real, the uncertainty is real, but then he applies the law. He seeks the use of the hammer. What if this is not a catastrophe? What if this is the necessary force? What if this blow is to shatter my complacency, to forge in me a courage I never had to find in my comfortable job? He does not deny the reality. He transforms its meaning. The termination letter becomes the invitation. The end becomes the beginning. He starts the business he always dreamed of. He pursues the path he was too afraid to walk. The obstacle became the way. This is the deeper reflection. What if every problem, every heartache, every failure was secretly a gift? A precisely designed lesson from the universe to strengthen a specific weakness in you. How would you look upon the struggles of your life then? Would you see a curse or a curriculum? The hammer is a brutal teacher, but it is the only one that forges true strength. The third law, the law of the compass. The emperor writes, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Adrift in a sea of trivial worries, the modern man has no direction. He is tossed by every wave of emotion, blown off course by the slightest wind of opinion. The emperor had a fixed point, a north star that never faltered. Remember, you will die. Memento mori. This is not a morbid threat, it is the ultimate clarifier. Let this truth cut through the fog of pettiness. It asks the only question that matters. Is what I am doing right now with my precious and irrevocable time worthy of it? Imagine him, on the couch, phone in hand. An hour has vanished into the infinite scroll, a dull ache in his neck, a vague sense of emptiness. Then he remembers the law. He remembers the compass. I will die. This hour is gone forever. Did I spend it? Or did I waste it? The skull is not a monster, it is the most honest advisor. He puts the phone down. The screen goes black. He picks up a real book. He calls his father to tell him he loves him. He goes for a walk and actually sees the sky. He lets the memory of death amplify the value of life. This is the deeper reflection. If you had 1 year left to live, what would you stop doing immediately? If you had 1 month, who would you spend it with? If you had 1 day, what truth would you finally speak? The compass of mortality does not make life meaningless. It makes every single moment of it inescapably, urgently meaningful. The rituals of ascension. These are not ideas, they are drills, and a drill is useless unless practiced. This is the coronation, not a moment, but a daily ritual. At dawn, the new emperor does not reach for the world. He does not let the siege begin before he has manned the walls.
He sits on the edge of his bed in the silent, gray light. He turns inward. He greets the sun not as another day to endure, but as another arena in which to prove his virtue. He speaks to himself. He names the day's challenges, not as punishments, but as his prescribed training regimen. Today, they will test my patience. Good. I need to practice it. Today, a difficult task will demand my focus. Excellent. It will strengthen my resolve. He armors himself in premise. He takes up his shield before the first arrow is ever fired. At night, he does not numb himself with the day's chaos. He holds court with himself. He takes up his pen. This is not a diary of events. It is the sovereign's audit, the necessary maintenance of the soul. He asks the 3 questions of the 3 laws. Where was my fortress strong today? Where did I mistake the outer wall for the inner keep? What hammer fell upon me? What did it forge? Did I practice the alchemy, or did I complain of the heat? Did I steer by my star? Was I made better by the remembrance of my end, or did I drift? This is how the software is installed, line by line, day by day. The throne. Rome fell. Its legions turned to dust. Its forums were buried by time. But the empire it built was never one of stone. It was an empire of ideas, and the greatest of these ideas was that a man could rule himself. Your mind is your Rome. It is your kingdom to protect, your garden to cultivate, your legacy to build. The barbarians are at the gate. They are not tribes from the north. They are distraction and fear and vanity and the endless shouting ego. Will you be the emperor who lets them sack your city? Who opens the gates and begs for mercy? Or will you pick up the shield of control? Will you welcome the hammer of fate? Will you steer by the compass of mortality? Will you stand your ground? The throne has been waiting empty through all your days of distracted exile. The crown is heavy. It is wrought from the iron of discipline and inlaid with the jewels of virtue. Your first duty begins now, not tomorrow. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself the emperor's question. Sit down upon the throne of your own mind and begin your reign. Ave Imperator.